face. Busting makes me feel good.
Hey everybody, welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate movies. I am your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, my buddy Fumi Abe.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm so happy to have you. I'm so happy because we're doing fucking topical. We're keeping it on the zeitgeist. Our fingers on the pulse of Hollywood, and the pulse of Hollywood is really pumping out this new Baz Luhrmann movie, Elvis, right now.
Yes.
And I don't know why.
I honestly am not a big movie guy. I like to watch movies. I'm not like a lot of people know about different writers and directors. I didn't even know who this director was.
That's crazy to me, by the way, that you didn't know who he was.
I'm familiar with his work, but I'm not. I guess if someone was like, name 5 directors, he wouldn't be top of mind. Is he like as big as Spielberg?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that he's probably in like notable directors, maybe like the top 10 of people who are currently working.
Oscars and stuff?
He got nominated for a bunch of Oscars previously. Moulin Rouge was his big movie.
I was like 9 when that came out.
But I was also I think 9 or 10 when that came out, and then I watched it as a theater kid. Like Baz Luhrmann gives off big, like anybody who you know who was a theater kid in high school,
they like his stuff.
Have seen his stuff because their teachers made them watch Romeo and Juliet and Moulin Rouge.
Right. Yeah, okay. But in my defense, I think Moulin Rouge came out a long time ago.
Yes. Moulin Rouge is 2001?
What kind of name is Baz Luhrmann? Is he American?
He's Australian.
Okay.
Mark Anthony Baz Luhrmann.
Oh, Mark Anthony's his name.
He goes by Baz, though. I don't know why. Probably some weird... Australians always have weird shit with their names.
Do they?
Yeah. Australians always got weird... they got a lot of nicknames. It's like Taika Waititi. Well, he's not Australian, but in New Zealand.
Well, he has an indigenous name, right? Am I wrong?
Well, his real name is Taika David Cohen, and then he uses Waititi because he has indigenous ancestry.
Gotcha.
So he wants to pay homage to that.
Yes.
Now, Baz Luhrmann, I have no idea. Luhrmann received the nickname Baz at school, given to him because of his hairstyle. The name coming from the puppet character Basil Brush.
What the fuck?
So he got his name because of a puppet. Do you know who Basil Brush is, by the way?
No, I don't.
The only reason I know who this is the weirdest comedy knowledge I ever have.
Yeah.
So I did Edinburgh Fringe a couple years ago.
There we go.
And the year I was there, Basil Brush is like the lamb chop of the UK, I guess. He's just like a puppet fox. He wears a suit.
Okay.
And they have a Basil Brush. Yeah, see, there's Basil Brush.
Okay.
So Basil Brush... they did a show where it was like Basil Brush is back, and it was like Dirty Basil Brush this time. It's a late night talk show with him there, and it was like one of the hit shows of Fringe.
I'm sorry. Was his origin story like a Sesame Street character, or has he always been like a...
He's always been a Sesame
comedy?
Street. And then so they brought him back after like years of him being off the air. So now he's like...
He looks nothing like that guy, by the way. I don't know what...
No.
The haircut is not...
The haircut, you can't really... I mean, I feel like maybe the hair... there's some glorious hair that we can't see, but the hair doesn't look like it now.
Baz
Luhrmann.
It's another white guy trying to sound ethnic, you know? And that's a thing.
Yeah.
But that's great. So
Elvis. I mean, look, I can abide by you under not being familiar with Baz Luhrmann stuff.
Yeah.
Especially, those movies came out when we were kids.
Yeah.
If you weren't a child who also like hung out at Hot Topic a lot, you probably didn't see anything related to Baz Luhrmann. So what was before you went into this movie, what was your experience like?
Okay, so first of all, Elvis has been in the news. Do we know this? He's been in the news because in Vegas, there's a lot of Elvis impersonators who marry couples.
Yes, and they're not allowed. They just passed a law or not a law, but the
people who own his
estate.
Yes. So they're not allowed to do that anymore.
Right.
And so there are all these like news clips about like, what does this mean for Vegas? Like, this is part of Vegas culture.
Yeah.
And my friend just did like a podcast about that topic, and I thought it was interesting. Also, I was like really into music for a long time when I was younger. I never really studied Elvis, but he has so much like, I think when people think of America, he's one of the people who pop up, especially American music.
Oh yeah,
you know,
big
and
Americana guy.
I've always just, you know, I don't have anything against the guy. I just always want to learn something about him, and I don't read, so I'm like, let's go movie.
Sure,
let's go movie.
Sure,
let's go movie.
So we'll go movie. You go see it.
I go see it.
What's your experience like at as you're watching it?
Well, my friend warns me. The one who brought me warns me and says like, hey, when we sit down, she's like, by the way, my friend hated it. So I'm already like, okay, what does this mean? It looks beautiful. I mean, there's so much to say. I guess my first impression was like, whoa, it's very artsy. The first, I think 15 minutes is like done in a very like cartoon comic book way, if you remember.
Oh yeah, where they literally have panels.
Yes.
There's so many crazy stylistic choices in this movie.
And it changes every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt like, I told you to produce this, but I was like, it really feels like every 30 minutes is directed by a different NYU student, you know? So like the first 30 minutes is like, they're doing that comic book thing. And I'm like, oh, this could be cool. And then it never happens again. And then the next 30 minutes, they're doing this thing where they like play like modern music.
Yeah, where they have a Doja Cat
song and like somebody else. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like, the contrast is nice.
Yeah.
That never comes back, you know?
No.
And then there's like 3 or 4 more of those things where like you make a really bold artistic choice and he abandons it. I don't know if it's because the movie's too long or whatever, but
I mean, it is a 2.5 hour long, over 2.5 hours.
2:40, yeah.
Yeah, 2 hours. I think the total, it's like 2 hours, 2 hours, 38 minutes, something like that, 2 hours, 40 minutes. And it's so long, and it's so, like, I haven't seen a movie like this in a while where I feel truly like there is actually a really good movie in here somewhere.
Yes.
And it's just, there's so much to sift through that just is cluttering up the works. Because there's obviously a great, I would say probably Oscar-worthy lead performance from Austin Butler.
Yeah.
He's probably going to get nominated. This is probably going to get nominated for like 5 or 6 of the Oscar, below-the-line stuff. I can't imagine anyone else getting nominated for an Oscar in this.
I mean, sir, I hope not Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks
he was
definitely
so
not.
annoying.
Let's talk about Tom Hanks.
Oh, God.
I was...
By the way, did you know about that
Colonel
guy?
Tom Parker?
Did you know about... I didn't know the history, so this is all new to me. And I found just that story, if you just distill it, that story is very interesting to me.
He's such a... There is a lot of stuff that, like, the movie kind of touches on in Colonel Tom Parker's history. But basically, he was, like... Belgian or Flemish or
like
something.
Dutch, I think.
Yeah, Dutch.
I couldn't figure out what that accent was.
Yeah, and then they bring it up at the like midway through the movie whenever they're like, he doesn't have a passport. He's a man with no country.
I didn't know what it was. I spent a good 90 seconds wondering if it was some sort of Asian thing. I was like, is this it's so weird and offensive that it's offensive to Asians. You know what I mean? Like,
that's
it was
how,
just like,
it's gonna be, he's just grasping at straws, trying for
just
whatever
trying
accent.
different things. Yeah.
No, he's offensive to Asians and to the whites in this movie if he's a Dutch guy.
Yeah.
So this movie, the whole premise of the movie is, sure, we're getting a perspective on Elvis's like entire career, but it's told bookended by Colonel Tom Parker, who was Elvis's manager, who was also like a weird carnival barker guy who was Dutch and then like got kicked out of Europe or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know a whole lot about his actual history. I have a feeling that there's like Nazi vibes in there somewhere. That's just like an instinct I have.
Yeah.
I'm sure perhaps Melanie will be on the case and can figure out some more info about Tom Parker. But there's so much happening in this movie that is like through his lens as a character.
Yes.
And it made, first of all, storytelling wise, I don't think it made sense for the movie that is the Elvis movie to not be solely from Elvis's POV, or at least like just a little bit removed.
Yeah.
And also, Tom Hanks, I love Tom Hanks so much, but he can't do this. He's just like, he's not equipped to do this.
Can I be honest? So after the movie, I was like, there's no way that guy is
a real guy.
So I look him up, right? And I'm not joking. The real guy, look up what Colonel Parker actually looks like. He doesn't even look that ridiculous.
Oh, really?
And so I feel like he just put his little like method acting, like weird... You know, like that guy just looks like
he looks wholesome.
He just looks like a guy.
He looks like Woody Harrelson a little bit.
And I don't know why they gave Tom Hanks the taller nose. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel...
By the way, Woody Harrelson, I would have loved to have seen him play Colonel Tom Parker over this guy.
I think you're right. I think maybe this. I mean, love Tom Hanks.
I love Tom
If
Hanks.
he's listening, if you're listening, we love
Tom,
you.
Rita,
We love you,
if you're
bud.
both listening, Chet, maybe if you're listening.
Yeah.
But Tom Hanks, I was talking last night. So my mom had seen this movie, and I was talking with her on the phone about it yesterday, and I was like, "There's just something that's off about Tom Hanks." And my girlfriend, who we were all on this phone call together, and she made this amazing point. So there's a certain point where somebody, like, as an actor, transcends being just an actor and becomes a movie star, right?
Yeah.
I think Tom Cruise is like the obvious one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is somebody who I also think that has happened to. And there's a window of time where Tom Hanks was able to kind of do whatever he wanted, and he could do really good acting. This is in, like, we're talking Castaway, Saving Private Ryan, Philadelphia. And now he is just a guy who can't do anything besides, like, be adjacent to Tom Hanks as like, if he's playing somebody who's a weirdo like Colonel Tom Parker is, it's not gonna work. And I think that's the problem, because he's just a movie star. He's going to have this draw.
You're saying he's too well known that if he can't play anyone anymore.
It's not even that he's too well known. It's that, like, it makes more sense for him to play a character that is closer to who he is.
Sure.
So he doesn't have to stretch and do weird stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, I feel like watching Tom Hanks do this role is there's something that's so off-putting about it, because I don't think it's in Tom Hanks's wheelhouse.
No, I know it's not a comedy, but, like, Fred Armisen would have been really good at this.
Yes. Well, this is the thing. You cast somebody. I love the idea of having Tom Hanks play a villain. I'll just say that straight out the gate. Tom Hanks, I think, could play a really good villain. But if you're going to have him play a villain, have him play like a normal guy who is villainous.
Yeah.
Like, if you had Tom Hanks play Jeff Bezos in a biopic where Jeff Bezos is villain, I could buy that in a second.
Sure.
Because Bezos seems normal, and then there's probably some weird shit. And also, I think Tom Hanks could probably pull off being bald well, right?
Yeah.
But there's like something about watching Tom Hanks as his career has evolved, and he plays roles that are not, he doesn't have to do, like, a wacky accent. He doesn't have to do the whole makeup thing.
Yeah, like, he's above it. I wonder why. Is it just money? Like, did he? I was the whole time I was like, did he need to do this? You know,
he probably got a ton of money.
Yeah,
he probably got a ton of money for this. But was it worth it? Was it worth it to have everybody ridicule your performance? Tom Hanks.
I will say, like, I think, because you're right, the main guy, Austin Butler. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
And script aside, his performance was great. Believable. It was awesome.
Yes.
It felt like watching actual Elvis. I feel like every time Tom entered the scene, it turned into, like, a weird sketch.
Yeah.
And, like, turned into a comedy. Like, he, like, took away from how authentic Elvis was.
I would rather have seen Tom Hanks play David S. Pumpkins in this movie than playing Colonel Tom Parker, because it's just bad.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. Like, why? Look, I get if you need the cachet of having a movie star in your movie to make sure people go see it. Instead, you're casting an unknown play Elvis. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But so you cast Colonel Tom Parker. You have him be a villain. You have him do this weird bookending the movie thing. You have this weird series of things where he's, like, dying in a casino.
Yeah.
And there's all these references to
I forgot
snow.
That's how the movie started that way.
It starts and it keeps going back to it.
Yes.
Where he's dying in a casino.
Yeah.
And a casino is hell or purgatory?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he had a huge gambling problem too. You know, but that's the other thing is, like, I feel like that, I don't know, like, I think the movie was doing, as the young kids say, they're doing too much. And
this is very extra.
It's very extra. And I really feel like that relationship is really interesting to me. Colonel's backstory is interesting. Maybe his parents talk like that or something, and maybe that would make it more sense. But like, I just feel like I needed to know a little bit more to justify, like, you know, just like, Mr. Presley every time, you know. Just
Mr. Presley.
I know.
I don't know what I can't even replicate the accent. That's how insane it is.
I know. I also was like, it's crazy to me because Elvis is a huge, like, international star, right?
Yes.
And he has this fucking manager who looks weird, talks weird.
Yeah.
And at a certain point in the movie, I remember it was like the 60s. It's the 60s now. So they're showing footage of like Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles. And so there are like these other famous American musicians popping up.
Yeah.
They had managers too, right? I'm sure Elvis had other famous musician friends. And it's so weird to me that his boys didn't like say anything to him about, you know what I mean? Like you go to like a music award show, everybody's there with their manager, everybody has a regular manager, and then he just shows up with some guy who like is as weird as like it's as if like you and I did JFL and you're like, hey, this is my manager, and it's like Big Ed from 90 Day Fiance or some shit. You know what I mean? It's like what are you talking about?
Why are you giving this guy 50%?
I feel like his friends should have been like, hey, you're Elvis, I'm the Beatles, do you want us to recommend you for another management company? Or like, you know, or maybe like that whole thing was so new that nobody said anything. But like in today's world, every famous musician is rep by a famous manager.
Right.
Like
Everybody's got like Scooter Braun. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So if Justin Bieber all of a sudden was rep by fucking someone so random like this dude.
If Justin Bieber was repped by like the weird shirtless pastor at his church, all of a
yes,
sudden,
from Hillsong, or
we would be
that's
so
exactly
weirded out by it.
Yes, and somebody would stop him. But then I said this to my friend, and she was like, "Well, maybe that's why they kept they kept Elvis in Vegas, because Vegas is like its own little thing,
right? And
it's not very like industry."
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, this is why like I said, there's so much that's at the heart of this Elvis story, that is really compelling and really interesting. Absolutely, the stuff where he is being kept isolated by his manager at the behest of all of his, like the people who he worked with on the special, when they were all like, this fucking guy's weird. He's not letting you go to Europe, blah, blah, blah. Why can't he go? And instead of that scene playing out and being told in like weird flashbacks where they're like, what happened? Why can't he go to Europe? What's going on? They could have done
Elvis, by the way.
Thank you so much. At my heart, I am a Rube, and I will do that Rube Elvis accent all day. I think that there's so much there that is like really, really like bone-chillingly despicable in the way that he's being treated. And we get sort of glimpses of that, but we don't really get, because also this is the downside, the movie was made in concordance with Elvis's estate. We don't really get to see
what does that mean, by the way? Like they oversaw the project?
They oversaw it. They approved a lot of the stuff that was going into it.
Oh, so it's kind of like...
that's why we never see Elvis fat. That's why we never see Elvis dying on the toilet. That's why we never really see Elvis succumbing to his addiction.
We need that. Honestly, after the movie, I was like, I want to watch a Vice documentary on Elvis's life.
I would love
because
to.
I need the real... Because he lived such an interesting life, and he's so talented. That's why all the black people in the movie were okay with him taking their songs. Dude, that was insane to me. He just goes to a black blues club, and he goes, I think I'm gonna do that song on TV Saturday.
And B.B. King's like, nice, man. Go for it.
There's no way B.B. King said nice, man. There's just no way. He was like, I'm gonna take all this and make money off of it, and they're like, tight. Like,
or the crazier thing too is, if that was the case, why not explore that? Even further. Instead of just another thing that's just glossed over.
For sure.
I don't believe what happened there is real. And I feel like we got to see where the actual reality of that scene is, instead of just this sanitized Elvis's estate is saying it's okay thing.
They only say, like, a black character only says the word white boy once, and I'm like, there's just no way that's true.
No way.
Actually, this is what kind of pissed me off about the movie. If you watch the trailer, if anybody's listening, if you watch the trailer, there's this one scene where like they show Martin Luther King getting assassinated, and then they cut to a scene where Tom Hanks says, this is a tragedy, but it's not our problem. And then Elvis says, of course it's our problem. You know what I mean? Like he says something like that.
That's not in the movie.
So it is in the movie, but that reaction of Elvis's is actually a reaction to JFK's assassination, not Martin Luther King.
Oh, shit.
So they fucking like use this like race card in the trailer to be like, we're addressing shit.
I don't remember. That's why I don't remember it being in the movie.
I remember.
It's all over the place.
It's like they duped you. So they're both in it, but his reaction, obviously the assassination of MLK was in it, so is JFK. And they did
RFK
happen.
too.
Yeah. And
yes.
And they are like happening in like, I think a pretty it's like within the same year or something like that. It happened like pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
But his reaction to that is not to the MLK civil rights movement, and I just thought that was dirty. I thought that was dirty, They did it dirty.
Yeah. They really fucked with, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, this is the downside to like trying to cover an entire scope of one person's life.
Yeah.
You're going to gloss over some really interesting shit that is not the stuff that you should gloss over. And then everything else is just going to be cartoony. Like I've seen a lot of people talk about this movie and refer to Walk Hard. Have you seen Walk Hard?
The Johnny Cash one?
Well, the Johnny Cash parody one with John C. Reilly.
Oh, I've not seen that one.
Okay. So Walk Hard is an incredible movie, and it's a comedy. It's a parody. It came out after Walk the Line.
Yeah.
The Dewey Cox story. It's got John C. Reilly playing basically Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
But there's like Elvis references in there. I think Jack White plays Elvis in the movie.
Oh, cool.
There's like Beach Boys references. But there's a lot of stuff that's so ridiculous in the movie because it's parody, but then that kind of stuff happens in this. Yeah. Like there's a scene that's a very famous scene at the very beginning of Walk Hard where Tim Meadows plays his drummer, and he holds somebody back from coming on stage trying to go talk to Dewey before he goes on stage. Yeah. He goes, now hold on. Dewey Cox has to think about his entire life before he plays. And so then that's what starts the movie. And that kind of shit happens in this when they're like, all right, Elvis, you gotta stand out here and pray and sing the song. Yeah. And then we go flashback to like his entire life before that. Yeah. We literally have a think about his entire life before he plays scene happening in this biopic. Yeah. It's so traditional. Yes. But it's trying to pretend it's not traditional. And then all of the stuff that would have made it interesting and non-traditional really shits the bed. Yeah, and I feel like there is a way to get into those like dirty aspects of Elvis's life without making him look bad. Yeah. But maybe he was bad. I don't know. I think either way, people would have been like, I don't know. He's a fucking rock star, right? Like obviously there are a lot of dark aspects of his life, and I think that's the part I wanted. I wanted to learn. Hey, everybody. Did you like how I just did my own theme song just there? I hope you did. Jay here with a quick interruption. I don't have ads, so I'm going to advertise myself in the middle of this podcast. Why not? This is somewhere north of 300 episodes when you're listening to this. And golly gee, it has been a journey, and I appreciate you coming with me on that journey for this whole time that you've been here. Maybe you've been here from the beginning. Maybe you've been here since like an episode ago. I'm just glad you're here. But I do have to say this. We here at Blockbusting, and there's literally a we. Chorkin, come around to the other side of the camera so we can see. Look, guys, I got a staff now, all right? I got interns, okay? I got producers. I got stuff to handle here at the space that I record at and elsewhere. And I want to be able to pay these people. And I, unfortunately, do not make the kind of money to pay these people myself. And that's where I hope that you can come in. By supporting the Blockbusting Patreon. Yes, that's right. We've got a Patreon. I haven't plugged it in a bit, but I'm going to start plugging it heavy now, because why not? I want to pay these folks, all right? And you can support the podcast for just as low as $1 a month, all right? $1 a month goes back into the show. I'm not even paying myself. I don't care about paying myself for this podcast. I care about giving a little something back to the people who help me out, because I'm getting a lot of help from people these days, and they deserve a little something for their efforts beyond just my eternal thanks and gratitude, which they're going to get anyway. So you can subscribe for $1 a month. You start getting access to bonus content from me, like I'm posting episodes of my game show Wrong that I'm doing here in Los Angeles that I'm not posting to the public. I'll start posting bonus episodes of me talking about stuff again. What's Good with Jay Light, where I just talk about what I liked that I saw on the television and the internet and stuff these days, because that's how you do for Patreon. We still have the JFlix level, the $5 tier, where you can get access to my full film, television, comedy special library. That's just $5 a month. It's cheaper than pretty much every streaming service out there, except for, I guess, Apple TV is $5 a month. And they have Severance and Ted Lasso. So you really can't go wrong there. And they got Coda. I mean, Coda, what a delight. But you know what I've got? Xanadu. And nobody else has that. Pfft, duh. I've got A Day Without a Mexican. Los Digits' least favorite movie. You listen to that episode? It's a great episode. But you just got to watch the movie, which I have on JFlix for $5 a month. I got a bunch of weird stuff. So go consider, please, subscribing to the Patreon for Blockbusting. The link is in the show notes. Or you can just go type into your little web browser right now, tippity tap it into patreon.com/blockbusting. Again, that is patreon.com/blockbusting. And your support will go to helping me throw a little cash the way of the fine folks who help make this podcast happen. That's all I'm asking is you throw me a little something so I can throw them a little something. Okay, we're going direct because this is like thoughts and prayers with guns. Like saying thanks is only going to do so much. I want to give them cash. Okay, at least buy them a coffee or something. So patreon.com/blockbusting. You can join and support for as little as $1 a month. And that's all there is, folks. Enjoy the rest of the episode. There's a lot of, a lot of the stuff with like him and Priscilla is very dark.
Yeah.
And very weird. The
Is that
age
his
difference.
mom?
No, his
so in the
wife.
movie, they're like the same age, but in real life, she was 14.
And he was 24. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So this is, I might be paraphrasing here. But when they met, he said something to the effect of, I can mold her into being my perfect woman. Which is like real dark, real unsettling.
Yeah.
But also, hey, I guess they started officially dating when she was
What year
17.
Was this? Was that okay back then? I also want like some historical context. Like
This is in the 60s.
Were 14-year-old girls in back then? Like, was that normal?
Age of consent in a lot of states at the time, especially in the South, probably 14 in most of the places where Elvis existed.
Okay, taking consent aside for a second, was it just like because people lived not as long, right? Because there wasn't medicine.
It's not the fucking 1800s. This isn't the turn of the 17th century.
You're right. It's so creepy. It was so creepy.
This is still, they have modern medicine.
Yeah.
They had in the 1800s. They didn't have pills for people to get addicted to.
Defend Elvis creeping on this 14-year-old girl.
Elvis.
Look, age of consent was 16 years old.
So this was in age of consent. Look, because it's different in different states. Age of consent in Mississippi until very recently was 14.
Yeah.
So let's see, age of consent in Tennessee in the 60s. Yeah. All right. So this is current stuff. When was the age of consent? So the age of consent was 16.
Well, but also remember, they were in Germany, So maybe it was
true.
okay.
Oh my God, that's
maybe
right. They were in Germany.
I think they were okay.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny about? Okay, so I feel like the whole time Elvis had like an entourage, of his like cousins or neighbors or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like such white trash, They're
Such
like
white trash. They're driving go-karts around.
It's so funny because today, like, you see like Migos or like Dave Chappelle, and they like got entourage, and everybody looks so fucking cool.
Yeah,
and everybody's like, even like who's the guy who made Atlanta? Childish Gambino. What's his name?
Oh, Donald Glover.
He's got people on payroll, right? And like they're his friends. They look fucking cool. And then it's just funny that Elvis, like again, it's like there were so many. That's so interesting to me that Elvis is like hot, physically and music wise. He was hot. Musician.
He's got a hot boy entourage. He's got a band. Nobody ever talks about Elvis's band.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody ever talks about like the scene where he's in Vegas and he's conducting this orchestra. That's really interesting.
Oh, that was cool.
Because I never think about Elvis as a musical genius.
Yes, and I feel like they glossed over that too.
They did.
It was funny that like he did a late night performance, and his band, the people behind him, were just like there were like 7 of them. And they were just like clapping.
Yeah,
on the instrument.
They brought out a dog. That's the whole Steve Allen sequence.
Yeah.
I don't know why. This is another thing. They have this thing happen that's like supposed to be a devastating blow to Elvis.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why we think that's a devastating blow to Elvis. We don't get any context. We just see him showing up on the show, and then a dog showing up on camera, and then him going, "Oh no!" and then him cutting to freaking out in his dressing room.
Exactly. Yeah.
We don't have enough time in this movie, which is crazy because this movie's over 2.5
Yes,
hours long.
yes.
We don't have enough time to get really deep on anything.
Right.
It's all surface level.
For sure. And I think, I mean, yeah, I think they should have just chose like 2 or 3 things and just focused on it.
Yeah.
I think that would have made it interesting. But in a weird way, like the way they glossed over certain things and fast forward through certain parts of his life and then slowed down for certain parts. Honestly, like I read the Wikipedia of Elvis afterwards and I'm like, I mean, this might be more interesting than a movie.
Is there anything you remember that like you wish that they had talked about that they didn't talk about from the Wikipedia page?
I don't know, but I think that's why it was so long, because I think they did cover like it's almost as like they took a Wikipedia page and just made it into a movie.
Yeah.
You know? But it's like then there's no like it's not good enough to be a movie. You know what I mean? Like if
Right. Well, that's the
know.
problem with, I mean, if you're transcribing a Wikipedia page, it's not going to be a good movie.
Right.
You have to have, but the problem is Baz Luhrmann can direct a Wikipedia page and people are going to be like, oh my God,
Well,
yes,
that's
standing
really,
ovation.
And I've never seen Moulin Rouge or his other work, but I feel like this was a not so great script. Like, but
Yeah.
it's got an amazing, like, it's like they put a lot of frills on it, you know?
There's some parts in the script that are laughably bad.
Yeah.
But there are also some parts in the script it's the most discordant. I had such a weird experience because I was like, one minute I would be like, wow, I'm captivated. This is really interesting. And then the next I would be like, what the fuck? Why are you having them say this like this?
Yeah.
With this character?
Yeah.
Why did you make this choice?
It you know, I don't know how we're supposed to evaluate directors, but it was weird for me because I've never felt this way in a movie theater, but like I just wanted it to end so bad after like 90 minutes.
Dude, me too.
And I just wanted him to die. I was like, just fucking die already. Like I'm so done with this movie. It's late. I was like a 10:40 showing. It was already past midnight. Like I don't know. It made me hate the protagonist, which was like a weird experience for me. You know?
I don't want to hate Elvis.
I don't want to hate Elvis. Yeah.
I felt bad for Elvis, and I was like, this man has had his life ruined, but also it felt like my life was ruined a little bit,
Yeah.
which is not how I should feel walking away from this movie.
Also, is his dad like a real bitch? Because remember that scene where like he's like, okay, the Tom Hanks is like, okay, you want to leave me as a manager? Then okay, get a piece of paper. This is everything you owe me.
Yep.
And the dad's like, yes, sir. And so
And
it's
the
like,
dad's just typing everything up. Yeah, the dad should have just been like, fuck off, get out of here, I'm
and,
done.
and it's weird because they painted this dad as like sort of this like crook in the
He's
beginning.
a crook, he's a badass.
Right? And so, but by the end, he's just like some guy's bitch. Like it didn't add up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really weird. And I think that like, I mean, some of the positive reviews in this movie, I can't even with some of these positive
So what were they
reviews.
saying? Because I saw on Rotten Tomatoes, this was actually, the audience score for this was higher than Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
And I don't believe that because that was the best movie ever.
I don't buy it. I've seen 2 movies in theaters this year. I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once twice in theaters.
Yes.
The first time I saw it, people applauded when it ended.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I saw Elvis at like 2:00 on a Monday afternoon, there were maybe 8 people in the theater, and people applauded after that also.
Oh,
And I
what?
don't know why. I don't get it. There was also a kid in the front row who kept like Snapchatting scenes, and then he was like uploading them to Snapchat.
What?
I don't get it. I don't know why this movie is like the aesthetic. And this is the thing. A lot of people are talking in positive reviews about the aesthetic of the movie. Yes, this is from Robbie Collin from The Telegraph. Yes, it's a bright and splashy jukebox epic with an irresistible central performance from Austin Butler. But in that signature Luhrmann way, it veers in and out of fashion on a scene-by-scene basis. It's the most impeccably styled and blaringly gaudy thing you'll see all year, and all the more fun for it. Because the whole it's maximalism, it's excess, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think it's great that you bring up Everything Everywhere All at Once, because Everything Everywhere is also a super maximalist, literally throwing everything at the wall movie.
Yeah.
In the way that this movie also is, but the big difference is that we care about what is happening in Everything Everywhere compared to what's happening in Elvis.
Yes.
Like, all that we really have to cling to is the lead character in this movie.
Yeah.
And then just a bunch of flashy, pretty images.
Yeah. I mean,
And in Everything Everywhere, you have like a rich, detailed cast of characters a lot of really heartfelt moments, a lot of good comedy, a lot of action, a lot of stuff that like really speaks to humanity and says something about the larger like human condition, as opposed to Elvis, which is just like, well, there's some stuff about race, and there's some stuff about politics, and then there's some stuff about drugs, and there's stuff about like trusting people, but like we don't have time for that.
I would love to find out more about like how it was working with Elvis's company or estate, because it's weird that like, is this how his family, I don't know what is an Elvis estate? Is that his descendants or what is
his
that?
descendants and probably the people who like any legally are tied to it.
Yeah.
Whoever's making the royalties off of like the Time Life Elvis collections that you can probably still buy on whatever.
I'm just like, is that really how you
America
see
that send those commercials?
Elvis? Like, I don't know. I feel like that race stuff could have been so interesting, and like I was actually there to see that. I was like, I wonder what it was like, because also, like, did he not write songs? Because it's like Hound Dog. He didn't write that.
Seems like it's someone's own, but he did write some songs, like the one that was in the special that was the protest song that everybody loved.
Oh, the Christmas one.
The Christmas one.
Yeah.
He wrote that.
Okay.
As far as I know, unless that's another lie that this movie told us.
It's like he didn't show any scenes of him like writing songs or getting creative either, you know?
The closest we get, it's that one where he's doing
the closest we get
is
he's just stealing songs from other clubs.
Well, he has that moment where he's doing the orchestra thing.
Oh, yeah.
But that's like, I want to see more of that instead of just him stealing songs from people.
Yeah.
And being a little scamp. So, but this is I think something that speaks to a lot of the problem, like the inherent core problem of the movie. This is Richard Lawson from Vanity Fair. It is the film's bitterest irony that a story about a man controlled by a domineering force seems itself unwilling to give its subject true autonomy, lest that distract from its director's aesthetic interests. It's the we don't get a chance to hear Elvis's story because the people behind Elvis's story now are like, no, this is Elvis's story.
Right.
And Baz Luhrmann's like, sure, I'll tell that fucking story. I'll tell it. Just the way you want it to.
Baz Luhrmann's from Alabama now for some reason.
He's going to do a little bit of everything. He's going to do everything he can to really get into the heart of the movie.
Yeah, that is interesting. It is ironic, I guess. There's like, he was controlled by his manager and now it's controlled by his estate. So nobody's really getting the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, nobody's going to think about not getting the truth because we brought in Baz Luhrmann to direct this movie like a bunch of film students and commercial directors who are going to throw something different at you every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're never going to really latch onto the fact that you don't get anything really substantive out of this.
Right. Are you a big Elvis guy? Like, why did he get fat at the end? They didn't explain that to me.
He got fat because of the drugs. And
drugs
he was
make you
eating a
fat?
lot. Yeah.
What?
He was taking, I mean, this is the thing. Elvis
By the way, I also didn't know what he was hooked on. Was it cocaine or like, was it that like liquid shit he was doing? Was
There's
that
a lot
morphine?
of stuff. Elvis was doing, this is where we're going to have to get, we're going to get clinical here.
I just wonder what drugs he was doing.
Elvis was doing a lot of drugs. He took a lot of pills, painkillers.
350 pounds. That's a football player.
Yes. He was found unresponsive on the bathroom floor. The classic thing is that Elvis died on the toilet.
Was it just from a heart attack or was he doing drugs and then got
he was doing drugs, but also, look at this. Note for his future wife. This is from somebody. He's gluttonous, right? So this is from somebody's biography, James Gregory. Note for his future wife. Elvis loves enormous breakfast, complete with sausage, bacon, eggs, fried potatoes, home-baked rolls, and coffee. He has a tremendous appetite at breakfast. As a sex symbol, Elvis wanted to go back to his shape. For instance, he once tried to follow a diet in which he only consumed nothing but jelly made of his favorite black cherry soda and bananas.
Oh, God.
What? He also asked a doctor to put him into a medically induced coma for weight loss. Holy shit.
See, I wanted to see this. This is the American Elvis that's fucking awesome.
The Mirror noted that Elvis...
Can I lose weight by you knocking me out? That's fucking hilarious.
The Mirror noted that Elvis Presley's health deteriorated more and caused glaucoma, hypertension, liver damage, and an enlarged colon.
Oh, God.
Ooh, he ate so much his butthole got fat.
Oh, I love that.
That's crazy.
I love a fatty butthole.
Do you know what an Elvis sandwich is?
No.
Have you never heard of this?
No.
Okay. This is apparently one of his favorite sandwiches that is classic. So it's peanut butter, banana, honey, and bacon fried.
Fried?
Yes.
I didn't even know
Not like deep fried, but you fry it in the way you make a grilled cheese.
Okay.
Like you fry it in butter in a pan.
And then a Dutch guy takes 50% of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, if only the Dutch guy took 50% of Elvis's fat, then maybe.
Oh God.
Yeah, this is he's a big dude. Like if you're eating sandwiches like that all the time, also embossed by probably fried in the bacon grease, which sounds delectable. Oh, I would eat that. But
Elvis definitely was a babe. Like I was looking at young pictures of him. He was very, very handsome.
Oh yeah.
Very handsome.
Austin Butler, they get a great casting.
Yeah.
And they show I mean, there's a lot of Elvis waggling his dick around in this movie, causing a stir.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the other thing. I feel like there was some moments of infidelity. But like, I guess I wanted to see. He never showed his like dirtbag rock and roll self, and I wondered if that just wasn't who he was, or
I feel like that might be who he was, and his estate was like, no, we can't show that.
Right.
We can't show Elvis like railing a girl in a carnival in 1954. We can't do that. The closest we're gonna get is him kissing somebody.
Yeah.
That's
and having like really nice missionary sex.
Yeah.
You know?
Elvis only had sex missionary style. That's what his estate told us and guaranteed. Yeah, I just wish there's so much that seems I'm not an Elvis guy. You know more about him than I do because you had his Wikipedia page.
I'm not an Elvis guy either. I really want to talk to somebody who was like in their 20s around this time to be like, okay, when he first popped, obviously he was huge, but then like after the Beatles, right, Jimi Hendrix, when those guys were popping, like where was he? Like what is he the equivalent to us now?
What is the equivalent to Elvis now? Would it be
is it like a Britney Spears? Because she had a Vegas show. Are we talking like Usher? Like
could that ever happen again?
But like I just want to know, like, was he cool when he came back, or like, were young people like, fuck that? I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix.
It seems like
now.
they probably. It seems like this is how sometimes who just went back on the New Kids on the Block. Like they just went back on tour again.
Yeah.
And I would imagine if Destiny's Child went on tour again, it would probably get the same kind of audience.
But Destiny's Child, there's a lot of respect with
but
Destiny's
that's
Child,
the thing.
I think.
It's like Destiny's Child, because Beyonce is separate, right? But there's going to be a lot of people. Boys to Men, I think, is probably, they just had a Vegas residency, I think, or they just did a comeback tour.
Yeah.
It's going to be that kind of audience where like the people in the audience of the Elvis residency, I doubt they were young people. They're probably people who were like fans of Elvis when they were children. Or teens. And they remember like the first time they ever got horny was listening to Elvis and watching him on the Steve Allen show or some shit.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh my God, he's going to kiss me on the lips. Wow.
Oh, that was crazy.
That was really weird.
He really did do that.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Was this before herpes? What was happening? He just straight
Must
up
have been
kissing in front of his wife.
In front of his wife?
Like,
oh boy. It's like,
that was...
it gave me real Richard Dawson from Family Feud, how he would kiss everybody on the show.
The host?
The host.
Oh,
he would kiss every woman on the lips.
I've seen like
show.
YouTube clips of this. Yeah.
Big strong vibes there. Yeah, very weird. Let's see. Who else auditioned to play Elvis? Yeah, Miles Teller, Harry Styles, Ansel Elgort. I mean, Harry Styles has got like that. I think Harry Styles is probably on that level in terms of like worldwide recognition.
Yeah.
People have, clamoring fans.
Yeah.
Bending the norms of like what a male performer should be wearing on stage, doing in their music.
Yes. I wanted to talk about that. So when Elvis is first introduced, people are like, oh, he wears makeup, he greases his hair.
He's wearing pink suits.
He's kind of looking like BTS vibes, right? Like what is a man? Like, can a man wear makeup? Well, in 2022, which is like, yeah, of course, you can paint your nails, whatever.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like who came up with that idea in the 50s? Because I feel like 50s is like, like homosexuality is not accepted. Like
that's true.
Like I'm just wondering, like,
but
nobody addressed that. Was he not called gay or something? Like, you know what I mean? There's no.
They called him a fairy.
Did they?
They called him a fairy a couple times in the movie.
But that's like that's so nice though. That's not.
It's so there's just like, again, there's so much in this movie and in the story of Elvis that like both of us want to know that we will never get a chance to really understand because this is going to be the definitive Elvis movie now. And
well, maybe because I'm thinking
we're fucked.
Maybe he did have a really interesting take on like what masculinity is, and that would have been really cool to hear from a man in the 1950s. Even if it's problematic, it's still interesting to hear.
Yeah.
And I feel like we just missed out on that. You know?
I feel like we probably did.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Because there's so much that got left on the table in this movie. It's just, which is crazy because this movie's over 2.5 hours long.
Do you think this Rotten Tomatoes scores are like is this rigged?
I don't believe Rotten Tomatoes anymore. I've really, actually, truly, in the past year, I've started to give up on Rotten Tomatoes don't trust it because it seems like their scoring system is inflated.
So everything is higher, or do they favor certain movies?
I
like
think
big directors?
I think that there's. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily about that, but it feels like, anytime there's a movie that there's movies that come out that are like pre-anointed to be really good, right? And you assume that that's going to be the case. It feels like Elvis is to some degree one of those movies. Like, I'm kind of shocked that it has a 78% because that seems closer to accurate in my mind. But it feels like there are some movies that have like a 94 on Rotten Tomatoes that I watch it and I'm like, how did every critic agree that this is like a great movie?
Right.
And then you go in and you read some of the critics' reviews and they're not giving it that kind of a score.
Yeah.
And you read their actual critique and you read the final score and it like this seems like it's not like there's just something that doesn't translate.
Maybe they went corporate, man. I don't know. Maybe they're sponsored by...
I mean, they are owned by somebody, Fandango.
I'm sure it affects sales.
It probably does, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something that like I've started switching to Metacritic.
Okay.
Because it feels like
I didn't even know they're still around, dude.
They are. I didn't realize it either. And then I was just complaining about this to somebody the other day. I was like, I don't really like Rotten Tomatoes in terms of like I can't trust it. And I'm on Letterboxd, and Letterboxd also has like its own set of what people think is really good and what people think is really bad. Yeah. Which is its own kind of interesting. And I think that just kind of happens with, I mean, look, that happens with any sort of criticism, right? Like some people are going to think movies are great. Some people are going to think movies are bad. And it feels like Metacritic at least offers a better overall picture of what people think as opposed to Rotten Tomatoes, where it just feels like some of this stuff's really going to rise to the top. Yeah. And like, it's owned by Fandango. Okay, what is the Thor ranking on Rotten Tomatoes right now? I feel like Thor is ranked somewhere in like the 70s or 80s on Rotten Tomatoes.
The same score as Elvis?
Or perhaps higher. Not that Thor.
See, that's
not
high,
original.
That's high to me.
That's OG. Thor Love and Thunder. Here we go. Okay, 68%. Okay. From everything I've heard about this movie, this is not a 68% movie. Yeah. This is like a 30% movie.
See, I would give Elvis like a 50.
I would give Elvis I would probably give it like a 60. I give it 3 out of 5.
So So Thor is that bad.
Apparently Thor is better than Elvis in this ranking system though.
Right.
But from what I've heard, Thor is worse than Elvis. Yeah. And it's not like 10 degrees worse. It's like,
do you think that when there are certain big names in movies,
worse.
You can't score below a whatever, right? Like if it's like Chris Hemsworth or Tom Hanks, like can Tom Hanks be in something and score less than 70?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure that there's got to be somebody. What's the lowest scoring? Because I know they did this with Nick Cage a little while ago, and Nick Cage, of course, is like, he's a hard one to gauge. What's Tom Hanks' lowest ranked movie? I want to find this out. This is actually really intriguing.
Look, Toy Story, you got like those are on 90s and 100s.
Yeah, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, blah, blah, blah. Toy Story 3 is better than both of the other Toy Stories.
Three got me.
All right. Yeah, it's all the Toy Stories.
Go all the way
to the bottom. Yeah, let's see what we got.
What is that?
The Bonfire of the Vanities. That got a 16%. The Circle, Ithaca. These are all like the teens, the 20s. Oh, the Da Vinci Code.
That's fair.
The Da Vinci Code, actually, though, I wouldn't say a 25% movie.
I liked it.
It's straight down the middle.
I liked it.
But this is the problem with Turner and Hooch. 50%. I've never seen Turner and Hooch. I have no idea. How dare I can't tell. Anyway, there's something. I'm not going to dig into it, but I do feel like there's something off with Rotten Tomatoes these days.
I wonder, like, so are you saying that no one can recreate another? Like, no one can make another Elvis biopic because of the state? Because I would love. I watched this and I was like, I need a better one because this.
I think someone's got to do the unauthorized Elvis movie,
or like a documentary or something. I don't know, something.
Something that really gets to the heart of some of the things that we are clamoring for.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because he's so big and he's like sort of. He was born in this time that was right before, like, I don't know, like, I feel like technology really developed. And so I feel like I don't know, maybe he's like in this pocket of time frame where like a lot of people just don't know a lot about him, even though he's like this huge iconic guy.
Yeah.
And this was the chance, and they fucking blew it. They fucking
crazy,
blew it.
man.
They fucking blew it.
They really did fucking blow it. But you know what? We didn't blow this episode. Call back, tying it together. Fumi, as much as I did not enjoy watching this movie, I really enjoyed this episode. So thanks for making me watch this instead of Old School, which I'm so glad you made me stop 20 minutes in because I'm like, you know what?
You probably like that movie.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I would say it's like a classic for me because I was like in a frat in college, and that was like, oh, this is one of the classic frat movies.
Yeah.
And watching it now, I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah. But this movie took some big swings.
Yeah.
Took some big misses.
Yeah.
Real fucking big misses. But it also it's like it's more interesting. Than Old School would have been. For sure. And I'm glad you changed your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could shit on this guy, this Baz Lurhmann guy.
Yeah, shit on Baz Lurhmann. Take that.
Yeah. I feel like if we shat on Old School, your listeners might get upset because he's such like an American comedy icon, which I do not like, by the way.
Oh, go off. If Will Ferrell was in this movie, I'll say it again. If he was Colonel Tom Parker, I would have loved it.
They should have just gone with a comedian.
They should have.
Because that's the other thing. I didn't laugh during this movie.
I didn't either.
Or like I laughed at it, but I didn't laugh with it.
They could have had an actual comedy stuff happening.
No comedy.
There's
no comedy. Yeah.
That's a shame. Yeah. Anyway, Fumi, where can the listeners find you if they want to check out your stuff?
If you want to check out my stuff, I'm a comedian. I do stand-up. Please check me on Instagram and TikTok at the Fumiabe. That's TheFumiabe. I don't have a podcast anymore, so that's all you're gonna get. And if you want to see me on the road, just go to my website fumiabe.com and tell me where you live, and I'll go there.
There you go.
I will go there.
That's personalized service, folks.
Hell yeah.
You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Blockbusting Pod on all of the social media platforms. We finally we cracked 100 followers on Instagram. We can see our analytics now.
And how long have you been doing this podcast?
I've been doing this podcast for a while, but I just started the Instagram account like a month ago.
Oh, 100 is good.
100 is pretty good. We got analytics now. Tell your friends. Go watch and subscribe on Patreon. We got bonus episodes. Start putting up bonus content again. So take that, people. Thanks again, Fumi.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Great. Happy to have you. This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.
Bye.
We did it. Bye.